All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Ask Me Anything session about Cubewise. So yeah, it is an Ask Me Anything session. So please, we are here to answer your questions. So you should have access to the chat. Be good to see if someone can just say hi on the chat just to make sure it's working. And you have access. And if you already have a question, please, yeah, you can see Marius, Jason. So yeah, so today, all right, everything is working. All right, let's start. So what are we going to discuss today? About the agenda, we're going to talk about Mandalorians. We're going to talk about Arc Plus, Pulse, Slice, and PowerConnect. We also have Marius on the line. So if you have a Tier 1 Pi question, you can also ask Tier 1 Pi questions. So we will be monitoring the chat. So please, we are doing this session to answer your questions. So please post your question on the chat. And yeah, if there is no questions, we will just we'll show you some tips that we prepared and to show you some of the latest features we have added. All right, so let's start with the Mandalorians and the DevOps way. So as you probably know, like we call Tier 1 developers cowboys, and this is not so. The main reason is that Tier 1 is very powerful, it's very flexible, and as you know, in just a matter of days, you can quickly build an application. You can create your cube, load your data, and then you can, if your customer is happy, then you can move to production. So this is where we call it cowboys, because there is no really oversight of what has been done. Mainly, if your customer is happy, it approves it, then you do the migration. So what we are seeing now is we see the next step of the cowboys is the Mandalorians. So the Mandalorians, they are like cowboys. They are bounty hunters, and they go to project or bounty to bounty. So I think it's a good comparison with Tier 1 developers, without the killing thing, of course. But yeah, the main difference between Mandalorians and cowboys is that Mandalorians, they adhere to a strict code of honor, and there are some rules that they need to follow. If you don't follow these rules, then you're out of the community. So this is this code of honor that we want to enforce and to educate the Tier 1 community. So if you still like cowboys, and I just want to show you that Mandalorians are better, so I have a slide to compare cowboys versus Mandalorians. And it could be a good title for the next movie for Disney. They might steal the idea, we never know. But I guess the Mandalorians, I'm sure the Mandalorians will smash the cowboys, because the Mandalorians are faster, they have jetpack, and cowboys, they just have a horse. They are more efficient. They have really huge set of toolkits. They never run out of ammo compared to cowboys. And more importantly, they have a code of honor. And if you don't follow this code of honor, you're out of the community. So if you compare the Cowboys way and the DevOps way, so this code of honor, we call it the DevOps way. That we want the community to embrace it. So if you look at what you're probably doing right now, because the DevOps way is new to the Tier 1 community, when you do a project, probably most of the time you redo the same thing, creating a process to load data, to create a dimension, create a hierarchy. All the tests are done manually. So yeah, there is no really easy way to automate tests with Tier 1, and there is no way to enforce oversight of or to do peer review between Tier 1 developers. So the DevOps way, if you become a Mandalorian, is like it will be easier to follow best practices. You can create automated tests. So instead of redoing your test manually, you can just run the test, and the test will be executed automatically. And it will enforce peer review. So you can enforce this in your team, that before you do a migration, someone needs to review someone else's code. But again, I think in here there is nothing controversial. I guess everyone will agree that we should follow the DevOps way. But now the question is, how do you do it? Because following best practices, if you don't have the right tool is not that easy unless someone is to read the lines of the code one by one. Same for automated tests. Currently, there is no way to do it with TM1. So you need a proper tool. And the same for the peer review. Even if you want to enforce it, there is nothing in TM1 that can help you to enforce the peer review in your team. So the DevOps solution is to use Arc Plus. So Arc Plus, we release it a new feature which enables you to do automated tests. This is the one in the middle. So DevOps is developer and operations. And it can be summarized in these 3 steps. So you build your tier 1 processes or your rules, your cube, then you test it, and then you migrate. And what we have released in January is really the testing part, where we have a new feature called the Test Hub that Harvey will show you in a couple of minutes, where you can really create your test. And it's really a new way of working with TM1, where instead of running your TM1 process, you're going to execute a test. The test is going to execute your process and is going to do the check for you. And one of the main advantage here is that if few weeks later you need to change your process again, or if you need to change someone else's code, if you have the test, you can just run the test and you will be able to see what you need to check. Because if it's all done manually, you won't be able to know exactly what you need to test after changing a process or rule. So another way to look at DevOps is some customers prefer to talk about continuous integration and continuous delivery. So behind Arc Plus, you have Arc and Pulse. So Arc was focused on the planning, build, and test with a test hub, and Pulse, where you do the migration. Operate is all the documentation and to understand a bit better your application, all the statistic, all the information that Pulse is collecting, and then the monitoring. So it's really with Arc Plus, it's when you connect Arc to Pulse, because some feature of Arc Plus needs Pulse. So it's only if you have Arc and Pulse, you just need to connect Arc and Pulse together to get Arc Plus, and to unlock lots of Pulse features inside Arc. All right, so I would hand over to Harvey. Harvey, are you ready to show Arc Plus?
All righty.
Yeah. I'll stop sharing. And
so I hope
you can see your
I hope
screen.
everyone's being good Mandalorians out there and getting into the unit testing stuff. It's a brand new thing. It's something that we might want to resist learning, but believe me, when you start getting into it, you'll wonder how you did without it. I think, at least for me, it's going that way. The other thing we all need to worry about is preparing for the V12. I think eventually we're all going to have to upgrade. So if you're a good Mandalorian, you should be planning that in advance as well. So I'll show you a few tips and tricks and a few things that talk about a few things that we're doing that might help you with that migration. But this is an interactive session. So if you've got questions, please put them in the chat. I assume that's what they do. Vincent, put them in the chat. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep. And yeah, let me know if anything comes through. I'll prioritize questions over the stock demo, but yeah, I'll just show you through if there aren't any in the meantime. So unit testing, why is it so important? It's basically the key to robust, efficient code. I come from a software background, so unit testing is sort of built into my DNA, but in the TM1 world, this isn't really the case. And quite often it gets overlooked and issues just left to be found by users in the UAT session. Quite often that's not enough. Things fall through the cracks. So as Vincent said, you need a tool to be able to automate some testing before you get to UAT, to try and catch the bugs and issues and any knock-on effects of changes that you're making live. And the tests need to be repeatable. You need to be able to just click a button, run all the tests again, and make sure they're all still passing. Without that, testing becomes a very laborious manual task and something that we all don't want to do. So I'll show you the test hub, and just for those that haven't seen it yet. But hopefully you are already in here playing around and doing it. So I'll go pretty quick through the screens. So the idea of unit testing is you categorize all your tests. So you can create as many categories as you need to separate out your unit tests into, well, I do it by module. You might do it some other way. It's completely flexible and up to you, but I think by modules probably a pretty good starting point. So obviously I've just got a few things set up in here. It's not a production system or anything. It's just some test data, but we've only got one category. And of course, all our unit tests are in that category because we've only got one of them, but that's okay. So this is our actual tests. So each individual unit test is a small, discrete operation designed to test one specific thing. It should be very small. It shouldn't try to be comprehensive. And it should be very specific. You're trying to actually test a particular case that you know will come up in your system. So I'll just show you an example of one of these. So the main thing about a test is your, obviously you've given it a label and a description and your category, but then you tell it what you want to execute. So in here, that's called the action, and it's the main thing that you want to do. So you can actually do rule execute, process run, or chore run. And when you pick process run, you get to pick which process it is and set your parameters and so on as required. So it's very similar to setting up a chore, very easy and intuitive. And this is the thing that's going to happen when you run the test. It'll run this, and then it'll go to this tab and do a number of assertions. Now, assertions are basically things that you want to check are true to determine if the test has passed. So in here, you might have quite a few assertions. You might only have a small handful. But here are the things that you can do. So this one just checks that the process completed successfully. It's called check action result equals completed successfully. You can also check if quit was called or anything else that you need to in here, depending on what you're trying to do. But yeah, most of the time you'll want to check that the process ran. So it's always a good one to include. This one, element count, it's just testing to see if the number of elements after the process is run is the expected number of elements. I'm expecting it to build a dimension that has 102 elements. So I'm just checking that it's got 102 elements. It's not foolproof, doesn't mean that they're perfect, but it's just one thing to check. And then it also does a check in the balance sheet as well. Well, it checks that the balance sheet element has 2 children. So obviously that's a pretty basic test. You could put more in here, but that's what this one does at the moment. And then in the collection tab, we just group our tests into collections. So each one of these will run multiple tests. So we can just select whichever test we want to run from the ones that we've defined. And of course, you can reuse tests in multiple collections. And this is the main operating part of the screen. If you want to run the tests, you just click run and click yes, and off it goes. So it's pretty easy to do. Now we've got all of these set up. It'll tell us whether we passed or failed. You can see here, this is the last result we got. So these 2 passed, these 2 failed. And you can see in the test results here, the result of that is 2 passes, 2 fails. So it shows in a little graph like that there. You also get to see code coverage in unit testing, which is an important metric. That's sort of what tests your tests to see whether or not it's actually testing the code effectively. So if we have a look in here, we can see these are the lines that actually got hit while it was running the process. And you can see in here, obviously, if 1 equals 0, that's never true. So none of these lines get hit, and they never will. So we're never going to get 100% code coverage on a TI that has this kind of code in it, because you can't reach that execution path. So the green lines are the ones that get hit. The red lines are the ones that are missed or skipped. And everything else is either comment or blank, which just get ignored. And if you want to see it as a percentage, you can go into your coverage tab here, and you can see we've got 60% coverage, which is probably not too bad, given there's a lot of if 1 equals 0 type of stuff in the Bedrock processes. So there's a lot of lines you can't hit. So are there any questions about the testing or?
No, yeah, there is one question about slice, but yeah, we can answer it a bit later. So we don't, yeah, we can stay on the topic of Arc Plus right now. Yeah, if you have any question regarding Arc Plus or Arc, please post it on the chat. And maybe what I would just add, because if I were, when I was doing tier 1 consulting, if the first time I would see this, maybe I would think that, oh my God, this might be too much. Maybe it's easy, but yeah, we're trying to make it as easy as possible to create tests, and it's really, it is an extra step, an extra work that you need to do to set up the test. But once the tests are defined, then it will save you some time in the future, because each time you need to update your process, you can just run the test. You don't need to check manually anymore. So the first time, yeah, you need some extra time to create this test, but in the future, it will save you some time, because you can just run this test over and over as many times as you want.
Exactly. You set it up once and then you have the safety net there forever. So it's definitely worth doing. I wish I'd had this when I was consulting, to be honest. I mean, I guess it's blowing my own trumpet a little bit because I worked on it, but but it's a tool that I've always felt was missing from the TM1 world. So it's good to be involved in getting it, bring it to fruition.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would encourage everyone who has access to it to get into it and have a look at the testing. There's a few new features now. We can export all of our or a number of our collections if you can select them. And yeah, there's a few niceties
and the
here. If we
the test results, I think it's quite important as well, Harvey. The test results, because it's one of the it's also quite important, because thanks to Pulse, we can store this information in Pulse, and then you can review how many times or what has been tested. And this is one of the one of the advantage here, that you will be able in the future to allow only objects that have been tested to be migrated in production. So with Pulse, we can see the history of all the tests that has been executed. So which objects have been tested, and
you can also get back to the results as well. So these are all the assertions, and you can get to the individual results of each assertion. So it's actually quite detailed how much data you have to mine in this screen. So yeah, anything else on the testing, or should I show you a bit of MDX Lab? Are there any MDX Lab fans out there? Other than me?
Can you test if you have a missing feeders? Harvey, there's a question here. Can you test if you have a missing feeder?
Well, the testing isn't to detect issues. It's to facilitate you setting up tests that will detect issues. So the tool itself can't just say, your feeders aren't working. But you can do certain tests. If you get a value from a cube and it's 0 when it should be a number, that can be a feeder issue. So there's techniques you can use to detect issues. You can't necessarily just click a button and find out that your feeders are wrong and have them automatically fixed. Although, if you have any suggestions on how to do that, we'll try to build it for you. But at present, it's just a tool, and you can use it to test anything in the model that you like. And if it's something that you're interested in adopting and you find that you need different assertions or other types of tests that you want to be able to do, just get on the support site, and we're constantly on there looking for enhancement requests and so on. So we're very keen to build the tool in such a way that people will really get value out of it.
It's a good point, because if the feeders are wrong, it means that the total value will be wrong. So the test hub is not about just testing the process. You can test rules as well. You can make sure that each rule calculated properly and you get the right result. So if at some point you change a rule and it breaks your feeders, then the value won't match anymore, and the test will fail. So in a way, you could do it, but you need to set up the test for each rule.
Well, I mean, net income would be one of your top level consolidations, and let's say retail wasn't fed. So if you did a test on net income for the full year, add to unit test, and that'll set up the assertion for you and just say does not equal 0. that could potentially test whether or not that particular element is fed. It won't tell you exactly which one's not fed, but it'll tell you where to look, and that's half the battle most of the time. So yeah, it's fairly easy to set up and get going with it. So
All right. Thanks, Harvey. Yeah, maybe you can show us quickly
minutes?
some MDX Lab. Yes,
All right,
it's
I'll
one
just
of your
quickly-
baby as
Well,
well.
yeah, it's kind of cool. So
So again, the test hub will be available if you connect Arc to Pulse. So if you have Arc and Pulse, if you see from the menu on the left, you will get all the extra features at the bottom. So what Harvey is going to show now, the MDX Lab is available in Arc. So you don't need Pulse for the MDX Lab. So if you are just Arc customer, you can use it today. Yeah.
Yeah, so the MDX Labs got a bit of an upgrade. It was always a useful tool, but it was fairly basic. So I just want to show a couple of things that have been added that aren't very obvious from the user interface. So one of the main things that we've done is implement drag and drop. So if you want to drag and drop from the server tree into the MDX Lab, you've got various options for what it generates in the MDX. It's a really good way to learn MDX. It's such a good starting point. Like if you wanted to write some MDX on your exchange rate cube. So you can see here, it gives you a little message saying you can hold control to replace the content. So that'll mean it'll delete everything that's there and replace it with what you're dragging. And you can hold Alt, it'll drop a different type of MDX. So for now, I won't hold Alt, I'll just drop it. And you can see here, it just does an MDX to get the cube data. So we'll be able to run that.
So this is the default view, the MDX of the default view, because you drag the cube, no, Harvey?
Yeah, the default view. Well, I don't know if we want to call it. No, I don't think it loads the default view. I think it's our default
Okay.
MDX that would load in the cube viewer if you just opened it without opening a view. If you do want to get the MDX from a particular view, you can just drag that one on. And again, I'll replace the contents. Now, quite often you'll get formatting like this, but now we have the formatting button in here as well. So you'll be able to reformat very easily. It makes it much more readable. So this is actually the contents of the view that I drag and dropped. And if I hold down Alt, you get this, the notation for subsets that you can use to get data out of the cube. This won't execute in MDX Lab, but it's a very useful form. We use that a lot. So yeah, pretty handy to have that there. It's not just cubes. You can drag and drop pretty much any object. So if you just drag version, or just do version.members. If you drag and drop a subset, it'll give you the subset. And if you hold down Alt, it gives you subset to set. So yeah, basically that's a bit of an overhaul. And the cool thing about it is also that the MDX editor from MDX Lab is now part of the subset editor. So this is actually the same component. So now we've got the formatting in here, and we've got drag and drop and so on. So I just open version so I can just delete it. You can drag actual on there, and you get the same MDX as you would in the MDX Lab. So hopefully that makes it a lot easier to generate MDX. It's a very useful language, but it can be a bit tricky sometimes. So it's good to have that helping hand to generate code for you when you need it. I think that's pretty much my time, Vincent, I suppose.
All right.
I don't want to go too long.
No, yeah, all good. Yeah, maybe just to add that we are adding each release we're adding new features into Arc Plus. So the idea of Arc Plus is also to make most of the Pulse feature that developers need available inside Arc. So what is coming also is to be able to see the flow diagram from a cube view Oh, you have
I
it
was
there.
just going to show that. Might as well pop it up, eh? Takes
just show it then.
Takes 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is for the employee cube, and it just shows you all of the relationships. So all of the TI processes that interact with it. It also shows you missing objects. You can see here a lot of objects have been deleted, so they show up, and it's easy to detect errors that way. And the region, it reads from the region dimension, and then it sends data to the general ledger, and it uses this TI process as well. So a lot of information in one click, and fairly useful, I think. That's it. That's the whole demo.
Yeah. Yeah, so the flow diagram is already available inside Pulse. Actually, I'm going to show it now in one of the new features we have added. So I'll take back the screen. So yeah, so Harvey and Wiz, can you please monitor the chat? So yeah, so far we have one question about not this screen. We have one question about slice. So now we're going to answer it a bit later. All right, this screen. Yeah, so I just wanted to show you quickly some of the latest features we have added into Pulse. So if you haven't seen Pulse for a while, or if you've never seen Pulse, so this is the homepage of Pulse where you see all your environments and all your tier 1 instances. So one Pulse can monitor many environments and many tier 1 instances. Or environment is one tier 1 admin host. So what is new with the latest release of Pulse is now you can see one Pulse can monitor now. This one are on-premise tier 1 servers. This one is IBM Cloud V11, and this one is IBM Cloud MCSP. So in this release now, you can monitor, one Pulse can monitor different V11 and V12. And what it means is that once you are connected to V12, you can then use all the Pulse features, such as the migration between V11 and V12. So if you want to migrate objects from your tier 1 instance in V11, you can use the Pulse migration feature. So maybe I'll show you quickly how you connect. So the good news with IBM Cloud V12 is that it is very easy to connect either from Arc. So Arc also supports V12, or from Pulse. So from Pulse, what you need, you just need to create a new environment. You put your IBM Cloud URL. So this, when you see SaaS, this is the latest MCSP platform. And then you put your tenant ID, and you just need to get your security, your API key. So when you're connected to Workspace, you just need to do it once. You look at in here, you click on your user, and you can see manage API keys. And this is where you generate the API key. So the API key does not expire. So you just need to do it once when you set up Pulse, and Pulse will always use this API key to connect. Yeah, well, I need to log in again, but I don't really need to show you this part. Sorry. All right, just my pass. Well, you get your API key. Oh, it's not coming. Anyway, you get your API key, then you go to Pulse, and you put it there, and that's it. Oops, sorry. I think it's a bit slow right on my laptop. So once you connect it to IBM Cloud, then you can start monitoring and do your migration. So another feature that we have added inside Pulse, and yeah, we are happy to get. I can see there are lots of Pulse customers on this call. So if you have any questions regarding Pulse, we are happy to answer them live. So yeah, feel free to post it on the chat. We also have a few other team members on the call. So yeah, feel free to post any question, and we'll be happy to answer them. If there's no question, I will just yeah.
There's a question there now, if you want.
Sure.
From Vera. Where is the Pulse data stored? What kind of database technology?
Sure. Thanks for your question. So, so Pulse, you can choose to either you install it locally on your server, and in this case, Pulse is going to use by default an H2 database. This is the database it uses mainly for the settings and to store some high-level data. And it also using Elasticsearch, which actually this one is an end-to-end build where we're using a new version of Elasticsearch, which is called OpenSearch. Actually, I was planning to jump to this one here, this Pulse, where this is what you should see when you log into your Pulse. So I'm just going to log in. So Pulse store some data in a H2 database and then on Elasticsearch. If you're on premise, you want to install Pulse on your server, then the data will be stored on your server. If you want us to host Pulse for you, we can host Pulse on Cubewise Cloud, and then the data will be stored on our server. But Pulse does not store financial data. It only stores what we call metadata, such as the chore process history, the change tracking of code. So yeah, we also store element changes if you enable it for some dimensions, but we don't store your general ledger data or your finance data. All right, so I hope that answers your question. I'm not looking at the chat, so I'll just put the chat on the side on premise. All right, I hope it answers your question. Yeah, we are happy. Yeah, thanks, Paul, for helping replying to the question. Yeah, we also support Microsoft SQL Server. Mainly for large customer, we recommend to migrate the H2 database to a Microsoft SQL Server. But yeah, that's this how we store the data. All right, yeah, we're happy to get more questions about Pulse. If not, I will just continue to show you quickly the other features we have added, which mainly this one is for on-premise customer. So for on-premise customer, a lot of you are using the offline package. So with Pulse, you have two modes to migrate, to do migration, either live, where Pulse is creating the objects with the REST API, or the offline, where Pulse is getting your TM1 files, like the .cube, the views, the subset, the .dim is getting the file. So the benefit of the offline with this release is that if you want to migrate cube data, it's probably easier because it just migrates the .cube file. And what you can do now is you can execute an offline package. So this one is an offline package here. I can click the execute button. And you get a wizard, a similar wizard as the live migration. And then you can select the target environment where you want to do the migration. Is going to load the changes, which is all the files that are available in your package. So in this example, I'm just migrating one cube, and it includes the views, the dimension, the subset. Then you can click next. And this is the steps that Pulse will do for you. So instead of doing it manually, what you can do, you can stop your TM1 instance. Once it is stopped, you can execute the migration. So Pulse is going to copy the files to your target TM1 folder, and then you can start your TM1 instance. So this is only for the offline. So for offline, you need to restart Pulse, but there is also the live where you don't need to restart Pulse. And you will be pleased to know that we are currently working on migrating data with the live migration. So soon, when you do a live migration, Pulse will be able to import the data as well of your cube. So the live migration will be complete in the next release. But right now, if you want to migrate cube data, the offline approach is easier. And the Pulse now comes with a wizard to make it easier for you to execute this offline migration. Because before, you will have to do it manually to go to the server, remote desktop, copy the files, and restart the TM1 instance. All right. No other questions on Pulse. So maybe just quickly, yeah, I wanted to show you the flow diagram. Yes. So the flow diagrams, actually, that's what Harvey has shown, is a very popular feature of Pulse that you can find here. So in Pulse, you can select your cube, like here, general ledger, select the levels, and click it's the depth of the relationship, and click generate. Is going to generate a PDF for you. So you can see with Arc Plus, now when Arc is connected to Pulse, instead of having to go to Pulse, you can just get this report from Arc, which makes it very easy for you, and which is even which is much better, because now you can, once you're in your cube, you can just click a button, you get the diagram instead of having to go to Pulse. So a feature that was requested by a few customers is, so this is the default, it creates a PDF, is being able to export as a CSV. So now you can choose CSV, and it's going to create a file, which I already have one, a CSV file, where you will see all the relationship. Let me open Excel here. Where you will be able to see all the relations. So that can be very useful if you need to change a cube, if you need to rename a cube, or if you need to change a process. You can select your cube, for example, general ledger here, and you will see all the relationship. And having this Excel file, then you can use it as a checklist to follow your progress if you want. But that's what was requested by a customer. So you can see the general ledger is a target here from the retail cube. And in other places, the general ledger is a source from this process. So you can see both relationship when the cube or the object is a source or a target. All right. So another cool feature that we have added is regarding the alerts, because we know, like, when you set up or when you install Pulse for the first time, you need to set up alerts manually. So what we have added now is a new button called Generate from Template. So if you have a new tier 1 instance, you can, instead of setting your alerts one by one, what you can do is now you can select all the default templates. They are the default alerts that you should set up. You can select your notification group, click Next. You select your environment, then you can select all your tier 1 instance. Is not showing right now, but I think it's just taking a while. You should be able to select the instance, and then when you click Next, it's going to create the alerts for you. Yeah, well, it's not working right now. Let me try it again. I'm just going to refresh the page. So yeah, the main advantage here that it makes it very easy to set up the alerts, because right now, for example, there are some alerts like wait time. If a process or if a user is waiting more than 60 seconds, you want to get an alert from Pulse. So right now, before this release, you had to set it up manually. And now what you can do, you can just click generate from the templates, and you can see actually all the alert templates are available here. You can see the default, that's the default, but you can update the default values, and you can create your own templates if you want. So it will make it very easy to set up Pulse alerts. You can just set all the default for all your environment with one button. All right, that's probably everything I wanted to show for Pulse. Still happy to get questions if you have any questions regarding Pulse. If not, I will hand over to Luis, who is going to talk about Slice and PowerConnect.
All right.
So yeah,
I think we have one
yeah.
more question. Yeah.
Yeah. So can we install Arc and Pulse on premise for free, or need some license? So you can download Arc for free from the website, but to download Pulse, you need to reach out to us. And so when you install Arc, it comes with a 90 days trial. But yet for Pulse, please reach out to us, and we will help you to set it up. All right. So that's probably it. So yeah, I'm stop sharing so you can share your screen with. So there was one question about Slice. Maybe let's see. There's a new. Thank you.
Yep.
So there was one question about Slice. It's like, does Slice has the same performance as Parfait? So I think, yeah, I guess the answer will be, I will say it has the same performance, because we can see from from our customers, people who are trying both, like in certain cases, Parfait is faster, and in other scenario, Slice is faster, depending on the environment. So performance is always a bit tricky to measure. So I would say it has the same performance as Parfait. Slice has the same performance as Parfait. There was another question regarding Parfait has an issue with some MDX, but yeah, the same for Slice. So Slice and Parfait are using MDX queries to get data out of TM1. So if an MDX queries does not work, it's not going to work with Slice as well. And the last question was, is SSO possible using Slice? So the answer is yes. Yeah, you can use a single sign-on with Slice or Arc and Pulse.
I'm just going to post on the chat a link to our site where you can actually have a look at how to set up the SSO security mode 3 as well. So there you go.
Cool. Thanks. Thanks, Wiz. Yeah, Wiz.
Okay. So my apologies for the camera, but trust me, guys, I'm doing you all a favor, a big favor. So, so let me just share my screen. All right. So before I jump into showing you a couple of things, I just want to remind everyone there are really cool and very handy blogs that we have on the site. So that's code.cubewise.com. And check out a few of the things that we have for Slice. Some of them is the hands-on part 1 and part 2. They're very handy. You can, as Vincent already mentioned, you can download Slice for free as well. Try on the hands-on. It really takes you by the hand going through the different the features that we provide, and they're super easy to follow. So I just want to make sure that you guys are aware that we have these tools for you to take a look. Okay, so just gonna go here on Slice. So the first thing is I'm just gonna quickly log in. And one of the latest stuff that we added to Slice is the cross drill. So maybe a lot of people might not be aware of what the cross drill is and what it means, but you'll see that very shortly. So I'm going to open my general ledger cube here in my view. I'm just going to pick I don't know, let's just say that P&L Flash. It's a simple P&L cube view. I always like to format my view. This is a feature that has been there since probably the first couple of releases. It's called View Editor. I'm not going to go there, but feel free to explore it. It's a very easy way that you can format your view, so you don't have to do it every time you export data into Excel or anything like that. So here you have the different types. So obviously you can create snapshot, slice as you would expect. And I'm doing active form, which is where you can actually use the cross drills. And we also have something that I'm a big fan of, which is the MDX forms. We obviously also not spending a lot of time on there, but check it out as well. We also have a blog for it on the website. So just going to create an active form, and here we go. So as you can see, obviously my formatting has been put across. I'm just going to show the different format ranges. So you will notice that you have the standard stuff to set up the different formatting ranges, but we added something new, right, called CD, which is the cross drill. So you can also add a different formatting to the cross drill. So in this case, just so you can actually have a look at it, I'm going to do a bold blue so you can actually see what's happening. And I'm going to hide that as well so we we have more room. So this is obviously a standard P&L, nothing fancy about it in an active form. But let's say I want to take a look at my travel expenses. So all I need to do is right click and you have the context menu. So here I can either insert another different form or use the cross drill, right? So the cross drill is going to do a new insertion in that particular line in my active form report. And I can actually break it down by a different dimension or hierarchy for that matter, right? So in this case, these are all the available hierarchies that I have for my cube. And I'm going to say, well, I want to break down travel expenses by department. So if I do that, you can see it actually breaks it down, my 362,000 by the different departments without actually expanding all the different rows in that active form, which, to be honest, is a big win, because sometimes some reports can become really unbrowsable, right, for that matter. And that's not also the good news is that you can actually do more exploration in the same active form without disturbing or expanding more rows. So in this case, I'm going to insert another cross drill. But in this example, I may choose a different dimension. So I'm going to pick region. And now I have two different dimensions in the same active form with a complete different dimension, right? And not only that, I can also double click and have a look at the actual elements for, let's say, Eastern Europe and so on. So you can actually explore, double click without actually messing out with the other part of the active form. So if you want to reset it all up, so all you need to do is just rebuild the active form, and here you go again. So you can start from another line and do exactly the same thing. So this is the new feature that we released, and I encourage everyone to take a look at it, because it's really handy. Just within a couple of clicks, you can actually get down to the juicy stuff in your TM1 model. Okay, so I guess you guys are monitoring the chat in case there are any questions. So I'm going to switch really to PowerConnect now, just to show you a few things on PowerConnect.
Lewis, before you move on, there are a couple of questions.
Sure. Okay.
So regarding MDX slice, Parfait has issues. So there's an issue apparently with rendering ampersands in Parfait, and Vera would like to know if we have that issue with slice. I'm not sure we would know off the top of our heads. I don't know if you
Well, I just tried it now. It works.
It does work.
I just created an attribute. Yeah. So I think it's working in workspace. So it works in workspace. Then the MDX is fine. So I just created an attribute with an ampersand. It works. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
That's the advantage of Ask Me Anything. Just ask us a question. We check it live.
Good stuff, nice. All right. So obviously, I'm not an expert on Power BI by any means, but the idea of having PowerConnect is just to make your life easier in case you have no other choice whatsoever but to use Power BI, right? Like we always encourage you to use native technology to report or explore TM1 data, such as Workspace or even ArcSlice or Applico UX. But if let's say in your organization you're given Power BI as one of the tools, well, you have PowerConnect to help you bridge the gap and get the TM1 data across. So there's of course some level of rebuilding that you need to do to build a dashboard and to sort of shape the model in the same way or similar way that you have in TM1. So here in the dashboard, of course, some of the issues I found is that, for example, like it's interesting how to have many options to display sometimes a few things, but nonetheless it's quite intuitive, and then you can also select different data, and everything actualizes accordingly, right? So this is again the same data, P&L data, and in this case I have built a hierarchy of the region dimension. So if I can click in total Europe, you can see it gives me the breakdown, right? So that's exactly the same breakdown I would have in my region dimension. So I have Europe, Scandinavia, Western Europe, UK, France, and so on, right? So this hierarchy has been built or rebuilt. You have to rebuild it for that matter in Power BI, just to get that sort of level of detail. What I actually like is that everything else, all the other objects, actualize or update accordingly. And if you want to reset, you just go the drill up, and then you come back to the total Europe. Yeah. So how did I set that up? Well, it's easy. So the model view, you have all my dimensions of my cube, and what you need to do is you have to create sort of subsets for those particular dimensions by using the get data here. I got Cubewise Connect, and then I will straight away get my Connect. I have different connections you can connect to an IBM cloud. You may have your own cloud server, or maybe you work in your local machine or a local server. In this case, that's what I'm using. And here are basically all my different objects that I have. In this case, let's say the general ledger cube, all the different dimensions. And here, for example, if I go to my account and I go expenses, here in the preview, you can see I get a bunch of information for that particular dimension, right? So this is the way you can use you can use the connector to extract the data instead of going through the typical export CSV files, dump them into a particular location, then re-import them through Power BI. Here, you just need to do a couple of clicks, and it comes in here, right? So if I go into my tables, so that expenses dimension is here, is all dumped, right? And with all the attribute information that you need. So from then on, how did I build that particular hierarchy for the region dimension? I'm just going to pick the region. Basically, all I've done is created these descriptions, these columns manually, and I added a simple formula, which is it's like Excel, right? Like there's nothing really, it's not rocket science, just to build a lookup to return the description found in this column, in column extra long name, based on this level 2, level 1, level 0, which is automatically exported, and just return the actual description text, because obviously this is what we need to know. And from then on, you create the hierarchy, the region hierarchy in there. And this is the only funny thing about Power BI, at least for me. You have to sort of keep jumping from one place to another. And once you get to the region here in the hierarchy, as you can see below, here is where you actually select the different levels, right? So all I was doing, just selecting the description level 0, 01, 02, added accordingly, and then you can actually have a look at the report. Yeah. One of the cool things we have in Power BI as well, in actually PowerConnect, sorry, is that you can also come and bring across security, right? So how do we do this? Security is based on your TM1 element security. So you have to have that set up first before you actually can do it in Power BI. And in this case, I'm going to do, say, okay, Peter. Cubewise.com. So that's my user. And now, as you can see, it says you viewing the report as Peter, right? So in this case, if I double click in total Europe, I can only see Scandinavia and Finland and Finland, right? There's no other dimension that I can see. And just to prove the point, if I go back to slice or arc, let me just close that cube, and I go to administration and go security. Now you can see I have my user Peter, which is only part of that group called Scandinavia. But let's add Peter, and maybe I'm going to assign Eastern Europe to Peter as well. Just do a quick save, refresh security, and I'm ready to go. So I can come back to Power BI. Let me just stop viewing as Peter. So again, I'm full admin once again. And you probably see here I have my region security, right? So which is again a dump, right, of the security in tier 1. So all I need to do is do a quick refresh data for that particular table. I don't need to refresh the whole thing. And there you go. And it's as simple as that. So if I go now and log in as Peter, and I go double click Europe, now I can see actually Eastern Europe and Finland, right? So this is how you can actually bring across the security data. So when you publish your dashboard from Power BI desktop into Power BI service, this is what the user actually will actually use. There might be some other things behind the scenes that you need to set up, but obviously if you need more help, feel free to reach out to us. And I think that's it right on time, Vincent. All good.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Luis. Yeah, there was one question about can we push this final report to mobile? So I think if you're talking about Power BI, yeah, Power BI is quite has a strong Power BI mobile app. So then it's more on Power BI to see how your report will look inside your mobile. Yeah, maybe just to add that at Cubewise, we will always recommend our customers to use a native tier 1 frontend for your dashboarding, like Workspace, tier 1 Web, Applico UX, Pathé, or Slice. But if your company still choose to go with Power BI, maybe some departments want to use Power BI, then really the Cubewise PowerConnect is your best option if you want to extract data from tier 1 to Power BI. So there is a question regarding Pulse about in the flow diagram of a cube. If we click the cube name, what we will get the rules. So no, in the flow diagram it's a PDF. So there is no link inside the PDF. But the idea of once this feature will be available in Arc, you can just from Arc you can just execute this diagram. So if you're in the rule, you will be able to get the diagram. But the diagram is still kind of a static PDF with no links. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So yeah, I'm a bit cautious of time. Just have 2 minutes left. If there is no other question, we can just wrap up this Ask Me Anything. So we'll set up a new meeting for September. So we should have a new release of Pulse, Arc, and Slice in September when we do the next session. Excel, what do we get? There is another question, I'm not sure. Like Excel, what do we get? I'm not sure about the last question. But if it's a flow diagram you're talking about, yeah, the flow diagram where you get all the relationships in Excel. So you see the list of relationships in an Excel file. Cool. All right. Well, I think that's it. Thanks everyone for attending this session. I will end the meeting now. So guys, thanks Harvey and Luis for presenting and everyone who replied and contributed on the chat. Bye.